What up, gang? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast. I think it's safe to assume that if you've made it to this episode, you recognize there is a higher level for you to reach as a person, as an individual, as a human being on this planet. You may already be a high performer and you're looking to take it up a notch, or you may just be someone who knows that the sky is really the limit for you. You have massive growth potential, but you just need to get things moving in the right direction. You need a system. You need a little bit of a push to get you going towards becoming that best version of yourself. Well, if that's you, you have definitely come to the right place today. I'm very excited to have you in my small corner of the internet talking about all things personal development. And we're going to get straight into what it means to be a high performer, why you definitely have what it takes, and how you can start becoming one today. I like to consider myself a person that makes the most out of every second of every day. That's what I try to focus on. That's how I try to approach life. And the key thing here for me when I talk about high performance and, optimizing your life is you have to find a way to have fun with the process. I've pretty much become obsessed with how I can squeeze more and more out of my life while still having fun with every second of it. And that is the key differentiator, I think, between the stuff that I preach about on this channel and a lot of the other kind of personal development and self-development talk that I hear out there. There's not enough focus on taking time to de-stress, taking time to build positive relationships with people, taking time away from your work. It's really hyper-focused on hyper-productivity and delivering results, optimizing, all that kind of stuff. So I'm trying to strike a balance in between that. And that's really what I think is important when you think about high performance is how can I maintain high performance and become a high performer without isolating myself on an island, going into my winter arc and disappearing for 6 months, or going into my lone wolf era, or however you want to view it. It's a way of balancing these things, right? Like you can still deliver at an extremely high level and be very, very productive and positive in your life while finding time to spend time with your loved ones, to cut loose, to relax, to have fun with this whole process. The more that you obsess about just delivering and, robotically optimizing your life, the less that you're actually going to enjoy the limited time that you have here on the planet. So that's really what it's all about. It's about finding that balance. Now, I haven't always been this way. This is an identity that I've crafted for myself. I used to actually be a stoner in high school and college. Like I was smoking a lot of weed. I spent a lot of time sitting on my ass, wishing I could be this way or wishing I could be that way, but never actually taking action, never actually putting things into motion towards becoming that version of myself. And I came to realize that my life was actually passing me by and no one was going to create a change except for me. My parents could give me advice. My sister could give me advice. My friends could try and encourage me one way or another. But at the end of the day, it all fell in my lap. I was the one that had to take the knowledge that I was learning in school, that my parents were giving me, the advice that I was getting, and actually put it into practice. And I came to a fork in the road, probably around 21 or 22, where I got my heart broken. I had graduated college and I was staring into the abyss. I was staring into the void. Everything that I considered a rock, things that gave me stability in my life, were basically gone in a flash. I came back from this trip abroad where, I thought that I was going to be with this girl forever. We just graduated college. Life was looking like it was all paved for me. It was all set in stone. And then all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from me and I come back and I realize that I need to rely on myself. I need to develop self-reliance. I need to become a better person and everything else will fall into place because of that. If I have purpose in the things that I do, if I have a mission that transcends myself and lifts me up and lifts others up, then I'm going to be a better person and I'm going to make the world around me a better place as well. And so that really clicked with me. I realized that life will actually operate exactly how you design it. If you lean into feelings of despair, of feeling lost and purposeless, you will start to assume that identity over time. Life really gives you back exactly the energy that you bring to it. If you're intentional with the habits and the systems that you work within, that you build into your life, then you can literally transform your identity and you can deliver at levels that you probably didn't even know were possible. And so all of this contributed really towards me becoming a high performer, making that a part of my identity, and just continuing that path in life since around that time. Since in my early 20s, I started to really focus in on how can I squeeze the most out of life while still having fun with the process. I want to become a high performer. I want to become a high agency individual, but I don't want to give up the things that I really value the most, social connections, traveling, those kind of things, hobbies, sports, etc. So I have a 5-step framework that I've thought deeply about this, and I want to put it out there and see if it helps people, if it really can motivate people to transition to become a high performer. And it worked for me, and I think it can work for you too. So number 1, it starts with a reason why. Why exactly do you want to perform at that high level? Is it so you can, support your family, ultimately your parents? Is it a specific lifestyle that you have in mind that you want to achieve, that you want to be able to sustain? Why exactly are you into becoming a high performer? Getting crystal clear on that why will give you a level of purpose and a level of motivation that nobody else can really instill in you. It has to come from within. When I mentioned earlier, my path from age 22 or 23, coming from post-college and not having a clear vision or a clear purpose, that is really where it stemmed from. I didn't have a why. I didn't have a driving force that was pushing me forward, and it was relying on other people. It was relying on, my partner in the relationship. It was relying on college to give me structure and a framework. I didn't have a clear burning reason why I was doing what I was doing, or something to guide me, to be a compass for me in my life. And so ironically, when all of that happened, when I got the rug pulled out from me, or however you want to describe it, I had a deep desire to level up, to become a much better version of myself so I could show up better in future relationships. That was kind of like the motivation intrinsically for why I started to really become obsessed with personal development and learn about how I can become a purpose-driven man. That was really like the core reason. And eventually that transformed into an identity. And that's kind of what I'm talking about here, is how you take these initial bits of motivation, these initial reasons why, and then you eventually build them up into a new identity, and you transform into a new person entirely. So what exactly are you doing this for? Get crystal clear on that. Ideally you want to make this something that is bigger than you. That is where you will find infinite motivation, infinite drive forward. You'll be able to sustain that for many, many years. If you're trying to provide for your family, for instance, like let's say you have, a child on the way and you're lacking stability, financial stability, that is going to give you much more motivation than deciding one day, oh, I just want to make 6 figures. I just want to, that seems nice. It'd be nice to have a little extra security. That motivation is going to be entirely different than the motivation of somebody who is hungry, somebody who wants it more than they can even breathe. Like that's going to be an entirely different frame of mind that you take into it. And that's going to shape how well you can transition into delivering consistently, being a high performer. So whatever it is, it's important to have that well-defined motivation, a deep desire to excel, and ideally you want to make it bigger than you. Next thing is you need a system, a framework, a set of habits and routines that you're going to perform day in and day out. And this is not in the aim of becoming robotic like we've talked about. You want to be able to balance this out with having fun, doing the things that bring you joy, relishing in your hobbies, having fun with this process of growing and becoming a higher version of yourself. But you do need that structure. You do need a framework to execute within. You need parameters, right? And once you have those set in place, then you can easily just fall back on that. That becomes your baseline. Instead of falling back to negative habits, to going to Dunkin' Donuts and ordering donuts in the morning and that being your baseline, you want to build up a framework to where, like, if something goes wrong, or I don't know, you get thrown off course, you go on a vacation, or there's a wedding and you go out to a wedding one weekend, when you come back, your baseline is executing, doing the things that give you mental stability and clarity and physical health. All of those things, you want to make those your baseline. So you need a system and a structure in your life that is going to encourage you to reach a higher level. You got to find a routine really that works for you. Not everyone's the same. You see a lot of talk in the online space about the need to wake up for, sunrise every single day and be already on your 5th mile or your 2nd run or your 2nd workout or whatever it is. But in reality, you just need a system that works for you, that is going to be positive, that's going to be taking you in the right direction, that's encouraging you to level up and level up those around you. And so just find something that works for you and be really honest with yourself and be really critical of how that system is playing out in real time. For me, for example, I am not a morning person, but I have to force myself to wake up early, because if I was to try and do things at nighttime, like if I was trying to work on the podcast or do things that are productive at night, I know that it's going to be so much harder because I already will have exhausted my mental energies throughout the day. I will have, spent myself working out and working at my day job and all this kind of stuff. And so I'm more productive in the morning. I have more brain power. And that's when I try and do my high leverage tasks, and knock them out early in the morning when I still have that energy. And it's important to think about as you build this framework out, it takes 3 to 6 weeks to build a new habit. This is really not that long of a time. So sit down one Sunday afternoon, take out a pen and pad, write down the key needle moving activities that you're going to build into your life to begin operating at a high level. And then make those non-negotiable. You can't drop those no matter what. That's your new baseline. That is your new fallback. If things go wrong, if life comes at you and all of a sudden you got to take your kid to the doctor in the morning, or you got to take your car into the shop, you got a flat tire, you fall back on these positive habits. You fall back on this framework, this system that you build for yourself that is fundamentally tied to your identity. This is who you are now. To also build up the momentum towards becoming this person, becoming this high performance individual, I think it's really important to give yourself a challenge. I've heard people talk about 75 hard. I've never done 75 hard, but I've heard people talk about 75 hard being not just beneficial for the physical benefits that it gives you. Obviously you're working out twice a day and the mental benefits, you're reading and you're doing all these things, you're drinking a lot of water and you're staying healthy. Like, that's inherently good for you. But it is really crucial because it shows you that you can do those things. It shows you that you are a person that can accomplish that can be disciplined, that can execute for that long of a time. 2.5 months is no joke. I mean, to be doing that consistently is impressive. I had a guest on the show, Danny Miranda, from out in Austin. He's a life coach and a podcaster. And he told me that it literally changed his own perception of himself. 75 hard really completely shifted how he viewed himself. He no longer saw himself as someone who was a slacker that dropped their commitments, someone that took their foot off the gas after a couple weeks of trying a new habit. Completely shaped his identity, and he never looked back after doing 75 hard. So I think it's important to give yourself a challenge. Give yourself a set amount of time, like ideally 3 to 6 weeks, because that's how long it takes to turn something into a habit. So give yourself a challenge over that time period and see what you can do. It could be running every day. It could be journaling every day. It could be reading X amount of pages, painting, writing. It does not matter. Just make sure that it's something that you enjoy, that you want to make a consistent part of your life and execute it over that time period. And before we go on to the next one, I just want to leave you with this quote. You skip one day, that's a mistake. If you skip 2 days, that's the start of a new habit. That's James Clear from Atomic Habits. And think about that as you go through this process of trying to establish that framework. Now, the next key part of this is accountability. In the beginning of this process, you're absolutely going to need accountability. You need to get a coach. You need to get a mentor. You need to find a friend that's willing to change with you, that's willing to go through this process of growth along your side. Get someone that's going to hold you accountable, that's going to share their wins with you so you can share your wins with them and you guys level each other up at the same time. Over time, you're going to be able to build your discipline muscle and not really need that accountability as much anymore. You're eventually going to become self-reliant, but in the beginning, highly recommend that you find someone that is going to work in tandem with you and is going to help you raise the bar on your own life. Now, the last piece of the puzzle is to transition high performance into an identity. Now, this is typically going to be an outcome of the process that we've laid out so far, but there's a few things that you can do to reinforce this, a few techniques that you can add on top of this. If you've been building positive habits into your life already, you've been doing challenges to push your limits, you found a coach and a mentor or a friend that's going to help you level up and hold you accountable. There's a few things that you can add on as bonuses that are going to rewire your mind and reshape your identity as a person who is a high performer. Now, one of these is self-talk. I made an entire episode on positive self-talk and the power of affirmations and things like that. So you can go back and listen to that episode if you want a deeper dive on it. But this is something that I started to build into my life when I wanted to try and shatter a limiting belief about one thing or another. Maybe it was being confident in a social setting. Maybe it was getting over imposter syndrome when I first started my career or when I started to do the podcast or something like that. I've used this in many, many different scenarios, and it's a really powerful way when you recite something, a mantra over and over again, maybe 5 to 10 times in the morning, or if you're driving around, say something that's a powerful statement, say something that's going to lift you up, that's going to give you confidence, that's going to further ingrain everything that else that you're trying to do to become a high performer. And just really, really reinforce that, really lock it in your mind. Another thing to do would be writing and reflecting on your progress. I've talked at length about writing also on this podcast and journaling and the power of that. But really looking back as you start to complete these challenges, as you start to stay consistent for a period of weeks, months, and then even years, looking back on how far you've come, looking back on that baseline, like where did I start? What kind of position was I in? For me, I was the stoner kid, 19, 20, 21 years old, sitting on the couch, hitting the bong, literally just melting into the couch. And now I'm, traveling the world. I have a fully remote job. I'm doing this podcast. I'm meeting amazing people. I'm doing epic shit in my life. And that's something that I look back on and I see that transition. It gives me so much confidence. It gives me confirmation that I can create even further change, looking ahead to the future. You look back and see, oh man, I've already leveled up 10x, 20x since I was 21. So imagine what I can do going in the future. Like that sort of reflection will give you a lot of confidence. It will give you a lot of motivation to keep going and to confirm that this is now a part of your identity. You are a high performer. You've delivered, you have the results to point to, and you can keep doing it. So that's another key part, is to build evidence that this is who you are. Look at the metrics, look at testimonials, pay attention to quotes, like little one-offs, observations that you hear from friends and family about, your progress. They're important to really let sink in, right? Like if someone says in an offhand compliment, oh, you're one of the most driven people, or like, oh, wow, you're so consistent. You're always on time. You, whatever it is, if they pay you a compliment like that, even though it's not something that's like a humongous win, it's not something that you're going to go and write on your wall, but it is something to pay attention to. And it is another confirmation that you are in the process of transitioning to be that new person that delivers, that is a high performance individual. All right, that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the episode. We'll talk next week. Got a lot more coming for you.